An entitled angry nerd loses his mind when he goes to GameStop and doesn't get the discount he feels that he deserves, claiming that he's the reason they stay in business and that they're going to lose a lot of money if they don't comply with his weird demands. But thankfully, in the end, these GameStop employees handle his complaints like a pro, putting him in his place in a way that truly was hilarious. Here's what happened. Okay, so my friend and I decided to stop at a GameStop while we were out of town to look for a certain game. When we got inside, I hopped in line to ask a worker, and my friend started browsing. There were two people in front of me looking annoyed, and then there was an entitled nerd at the register taking up the attention of both workers who also looked annoyed. This guy barked at them and said,
"I've been coming to this store for years. They've always done it for me."
Now, the manager essentially told him that all GameStops have the same basic rules, and he couldn't just give this guy a discount because it would actually cost him his job. Now, for some context, the entitled nerd was asking for a price match with the same item at Best Buy. However, the one employee rung it up at that price and put the pro member discount on top of it, which, by the way, only took off like $7 extra. Well, the manager told the worker that they can't apply that discount on top of a price match. Well, this entitled angry nerd just went off. He started screaming,
"I want to see your paperwork. Show me where it says you can't do that. I've been coming here for years. You're going to lose all your business if you don't give me at my price."
I mean, the dude literally turned red in the face yelling at these guys. The manager walks off and returns with some papers. He stands there and reads through the papers and then just smiles. "Oh, actually, not only can I not apply a discount to a price match, we are not even allowed to price match at all at this location. Oh no." He then proceeds to hand the papers over to the angry nerd, who is hemming and hawing and steaming from the ears. The workers help the line that has piled up, while the angry nerd reads over the papers multiple times and realizes he's not going to get the thing he wanted unless he pays full price. So, in the end, the thing he wanted would have cost him well over $200 instead of $170, all because he wanted it for $163. And I've honestly never been more satisfied watching someone self-sabotage in my life. Wow, this guy really tried to act like a big shot at this GameStop. Like seriously, the way he was acting was completely out of line. He not only tried to claim that he gives all these people so much business, but he also really tried to be like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna lose all your business if you don't have me." It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Your first mistake is that you shop at GameStop, but your second mistake is pretending like you are anybody to them. Because as somebody who's worked customer service in their life, I can guarantee you those workers are not thinking, "Oh no, the fact that he's leaving means that we're gonna have to shut down." They're probably thinking, "Oh good, he's gonna leave. I really hope I don't have to deal with him again." So honestly, good job to the GameStop employees. They handled that perfectly because I seriously don't think anything would have stopped that guy from screaming at them unless they gave him cold hard facts. Because in the end, that's exactly what this guy needed just to shut up. And if he had just kept his mouth shut, he could have had some kind of discount for his item instead of inevitably needing to pay full price. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled mom constantly finds a way to blame me for everything wrong in my life or in her life. And I'm honestly so sick of the way she treats me and all the gaslighting and complaints I have to endure at her expense. Here's what happened. Okay, so I have so many stories that I could tell on this subject because honestly, if something goes wrong, my mom thinks that I'm an evil person who causes everything that happens in my life or in her life. I'll tell you one story when my dog got injured as a puppy, and as a note, he is 100% fine now and he's living his best life. But when my dog was about 4 months old, he was jumping around for a treat but landed awkwardly. It was literally a complete accident. As soon as he landed, I knew something was wrong and I took him to the vet. It turns out he had a tibial tuberosity avulsion, which is a common break in young dogs and requires surgery. Now, this was before I was no contact with my mom, so I kept her informed and she heard how worried and upset I was. Luckily, my dog was able to have a couple of pins placed and recovered really quickly, but the surgeon told me that there was a small chance he could need a second surgery if the pins happened to displace as the leg grew. Well, fast forward 1 year, and suddenly we can tell his leg hurts once again. He won't even put weight on it. I call my mom and she immediately launches into a tirade that I did something to him, I'm treating him awfully, and that I'm constantly forcing him to run around too much. She said that I force him to exercise when he doesn't want to, and that this is all 100% my fault, and that now I had ruined his leg and his life. This was incredibly upsetting and very cruel to me. I had just called her because I was worried about my dog, and she knew the original situation, but in reality, this was just the pin displacement as the leg grew. true. The vet removed the pins and it was no longer a big deal. He was back to normal almost immediately. Fast forward another few months, and the topic of my dog's leg comes up in a conversation with my mom. She insists that I called her and told her that I mistreated my dog by running him too much, and that she had spent so much of her time talking me out of that mental space, and that she's such a good person for supporting me through such negative thoughts. And when she said that, honestly, I was blown away. And you know what? This is just one example, but she will always twist every story and gaslight so that she is the complete victim and I'm the one causing the problem. And honestly, after dealing with this for so long, I'm seriously so done with my entitled mom. Okay, your mom sounds insane. Like she is literally trying to gaslight you and change history. So first she's gonna be like, oh yeah, this is all your fault. And then fast forward a few months and be like, oh yeah, I helped you through that situation. I'm such a good mother. Like, no, you're not. You're insane. Like, who in their right mind would act like that? So truly, I think it makes sense as to why you went no contact with your mom, because based on the way she acts, it sounds like this is a constant issue. So to that end, I don't blame you for stepping away. Am I the jerk for essentially tossing my housemates' food away, all because they kept using a portion of my fridge? Because right now they are very angry with me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I live in a rented house split 3 ways. I did not know my roommates before meeting them, and all was decided by the landlord. When I first came in, I was informed that specific cabinets and fridge spaces belong to certain people. For example, the left side cabinet belongs to the renter assigned as number 1, the middle was assigned as number 2, and the third was assigned as number 3, and so on. This was told to me by the landlord, it was on my contract, and the 2 housemates seemed to uphold this rule since when I first came in, the right side cabinet and the bottom fridge was stated to be mine. I was strictly told to not impede or use the items of others, and honestly, all was well. In fact, I like this rule very much. The problem came when I did some minor grocery shopping and saw some stuff that definitely wasn't mine in my section of the fridge. There was an almond milk carton and some chicken. Now, I was a little annoyed, but I texted the group chat to ask who it belonged to and why it was in my section. Housemate number 1, we will call Leah, said that it wasn't hers, and it was confirmed when housemate number 2, who we will call Cheryl, said that it was hers and just needed temporary space because her section was full. Now, I was a little annoyed, and I texted that I would have appreciated her asking me first, but I get that she just needed temporary space. I asked her to please come move her stuff or at least let me squeeze into her section because I just picked up my own groceries. Well, she refused and said that she was too busy, that she already tried to squeeze it in. I replied that I'm moving her stuff out of my section because I can't let my stuff rot. I then asked Leah in the chat if she would mind me putting Cheryl's stuff with hers, and Leah said no, and I respected it. I left her carton and her chicken plate on the counter, and I put my groceries in and went about my day. Well, problems came to a head when Cheryl asked to speak with me in the living room. She basically went off on me for tossing her food away because the chicken and the milk weren't good or safe anymore after being left out. I said, I'm sorry, but that was my space in the fridge. Then Cheryl asked me to compensate, but I refused. She said that she'd get the landlord involved for touching other people's items, and I got a little hot-headed when she said that, and said that I'll just get at her for using other people's space. Leah yelled at us to shut up, and that we're both just being childish, and that threatening the landlord is a low blow. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk. Your roommate overstepped their boundaries and tried to push you around, and basically try to break one of the rules in your contract as tenants. Like, she broke the rules, not you. And to top it all off, you just bought groceries. Like, it's not fair for you to be stuck with no space in the fridge, all because your roommate wants to be selfish. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think your roommate was completely out of line. Am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law that her family can't stay at my beach house any longer, even though they helped build it? Because after receiving several complaints, as well as seeing evidence of their entitlement towards my property, I am very upset with her, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm 31 years old and my husband is 38, and we live about 3 hours away from my sister-in-law's family. Her family consists of her husband, and her 2 kids. A few years ago, my husband and I bought a really rundown property on the coast, and this place was a couple of hours from where we live. I wanted to make a project of fixing it up, and my husband liked the idea and was happy to support it, but it was mostly my project. I really put a lot of effort into fixing it as cheaply as possible. I went over and stayed there for many nights and literally did a lot of construction, with my husband coming and helping about half the time. I sourced recycled wood and such, so almost all the materials are found in some way, day. Once it was partially finished, I thought I could enlist my sister-in-law's help, so I told her about this project and asked if she wanted to come stay over for a few days with her family and help me finish up the work. She brought her kids and husband and slept out on the deck and did things like painting and building some furniture. When it was finished, it was really beautiful. We started renting it as an Airbnb and have had some good success with it so far. Now, I did say that my sister-in-law's family could come stay anytime because they help with it. There is 2 parts to the house that have separate kitchens and bathrooms, so we've tried to keep the top for us and my sister-in-law's family and the bottom for the Airbnb. Well, last week they were there at the same time as some paid guests. I got a complaint from the guest afterwards that my sister-in-law's kids had made fun of their kids and that my sister-in-law told them that this was their house, so guests don't get to dictate how their kids behave. I then decided to ask my sister-in-law about this, and she said their kids wanted to play with the guest kids on the beach, and the guest kids tried to ask her kids to leave them alone, but they wouldn't. They were playing volleyball and her kids were much better, and according to her, she was rightfully proud of it. Well, I got really upset, and I told her she wasn't allowed to stay there anymore if she can't be considerate of the fact that this is also a business, and you can't just be a jerk to customers or anybody. Well, now she's saying that I'm a jerk because I promised she could stay there anytime. So honestly, am I in the wrong here? Because right now I'm really frustrated and I'm not sure which direction to go. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think your sister-in-law is taking advantage of this beach house, and she's now under this weird assumption that she can just do whatever she wants and that there won't be any consequences. But here's the thing, if you're gonna act like a moron and disrupt a business that you are running, then guess what? They've gotta go. They are literally affecting your bottom line, and in my opinion, that is unacceptable. There is no good excuse for that kind of behavior. So for her to be like, oh, we're entitled to be here because this is our house. It's like, no, you're not. This is not your house at all. This is your sister-in-law's house, and you have now worn out your welcome. So no, you are definitely not the jerk, and I don't think you should be beholden to any kind of promise you made previously, especially when they're openly and proudly disrespecting paying customers. That is absolutely unacceptable, and if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. I grammar checked someone's college paper, and now he's blaming me for his failure, claiming that I should have fixed all of his mistakes, and that because I didn't, he got a failing grade. And I'm honestly blown away by this guy's entitlement, and I now think I'll never do grammar corrections for anybody ever again. Here's what happened. Ever since my high school days, I've been correcting some of my friends' papers. I mostly only check the grammar, but I also do some minor adjustments. For instance, I had one friend who didn't understand the concept of paragraphs until college, and this is something I do every now and then. I'm not a professional by any means, but my work has been good enough that my friends have recommended me to some of their peers. I graduated college in 2019. I'm not a teacher or a student, and I don't charge anyone anything. Whenever I agree to do this, it's purely just for the fun of it. However, I've been doing it less and less lately, as now I actually have a job. I've also got a husband and a toddler. Also, almost all my friends have graduated. One of the exceptions is a close friend of mine who recently decided to get a second degree. His class had a pretty big paper to deliver last week, and he recommended my services to a classmate of his. I was put in contact with a classmate, we'll call him Derek for the sake of the story, who is an 18-year-old who, based on our previous interactions through the phone, seemed like a chill person. In retrospect, I'm pretty sure he was probably just high. The paper was due last Monday at 7:30 in the morning, right before the start of their class, and he had promised me that he would send it to me for grammar check at least 24 hours before. Well, on Monday at 1 o'clock in the morning, Derek finally sent me the paper, and as promised, I swallowed my frustration and I got to work. The paper was 3 pages long. As I read it, I noticed that at least half of it was very clearly written by ChatGPT. It was bad enough that I almost immediately realized the information was wrong. I think the AI confused 2 different people, which completely derailed much of what came next, even though I only had a basic understanding of what the paper was about. But it was also 1 o'clock in the morning, and the grammar for that half was completely fine, so I didn't touch it. I only corrected the offensively atrocious grammar present pretty much everywhere else. I sent him the finished paper about an hour later, and he didn't even thank me. Well, Derek got his grade back yesterday, and his paper got a 2 out of 10, and his teacher apparently told him that he was lucky to even get that. Well, his response was to send me a text message that basically said something along the lines of, "What's going on, man? Weren't you supposed to correct it?" Well, I reminded Derek that I corrected grammatical errors, and I didn't even touch the information. He had been informed of that several times by both me and my friend, especially before I agreed to help him out. He rudely continued to text me that I should have corrected the rest of it anyways, since I could tell the information was inaccurate. it. So, Derek, who relied on AI to write half of a very important paper, is blaming me for the fact that his teacher saw right through it. And judging by some of his text messages, I think he expected me to rewrite parts of his paper. I mean, the absolute nerve of this guy. Now, I get it. I was a student once and I don't miss it, but I would never treat anyone like this, especially someone who had just done me a huge favor. And after this incident, I am seriously considering not doing grammar checks any longer. Wow, that guy is a complete jerk. Here you are providing a literal free service, and this guy's trying to blame you for his incompetence. Like, that is super inconsiderate, especially because it really sounds like he was trying to find someone to blame if things went wrong. Like, this idiot used an AI to write his paper, and he's trying to be like, wow, why didn't you fix it? It's like, dude, that is not what I signed up for. So honestly, I don't think you did anything wrong here. I think Derek's a complete moron, and in my opinion, I think you went above and beyond what would have been reasonable, especially because of the fact that he gave it to you at 1 in the morning. My shady, entitled boss is treating me and my coworkers like absolute garbage, refusing to pay for our overtime, as well as constantly yelling at us and doing shady things. And I'm now at a crossroads, and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm currently employed at a restaurant where my boss treats all of us like garbage. Some things have gone over the edge recently, and I am counting down my days until I will be financially stable enough to quit. Please keep in mind, we are all 18 years of age and under working here, and I'm not sure what is right or wrong or what to do. Besides the owner and cooks who don't speak English, our manager is the only older coworker, but he is the boss's son and doesn't listen to our complaints because it's normal to him. For starters, my boss refuses to pay overtime. We are located in a state where it is mandatory to pay overtime if you are over 40 hours within a work week. He has cut our pay period short in order to avoid paying overtime, and I've kept track of my hours and have most definitely worked over 40 hours in a week and over 80 in 2 weeks and never received overtime. But somehow, some way, we get our pay a few days early and it does not show as many hours, as if it were a full 2-week pay stub. I'm so super confused on that, and it doesn't only happen to me. I was actually scoffed at when I brought it up to the manager, the boss's son, as he stated that we don't pay overtime. And he even laughed at me when he said that. I mean, I was just completely speechless. He is also constantly yelling at us. He is foreign and uses it as an excuse to scream and belittle us all day. If there's a dirty plate on a table for more than a minute, he will scream and ask if we even know how to do our job. We have even gotten customers asking if we get yelled like that often because it is so loud and embarrassing. Also, he is very dirty. He will use moldy foods and he will reuse food that gets sent back because nothing ever goes to waste. And if we say anything, he tells us where the door is, basically. Also, and this is really sketchy, he used to sell illegal substances to other employees working there. And just as a reminder, everybody who works here is 18 years of age and under, if you know what I mean. And I'm talking like the really bad stuff. And he would also have parties at his house with all of us when we were like 16. He got in legal trouble but only spent around a month in jail because he threatened us if we said anything. He even basically like blackmailed one of my coworkers, saying that he would tell the police about her issues if she said anything about his. He also talks garbage about different employees daily to all the other employees at the restaurant. Also, he will not fire you, so you can't just claim unemployment. Instead, he will just take all of your hours and leave you with one 4-hour shift and say that he doesn't have anything else when it's pretty clear that he does. And other employees recall him asking them if they could come in for more hours, and this is just so he can keep that one person with one shift so that eventually they're going to be forced to quit. So honestly, is there anything I can do about this situation? Because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, you need to document everything and record every interaction you ever have with this guy. Like literally anything that is possibly weird about this place, you mark that down and take note of it. Text conversations, any kind of like written documents, stuff that he's given you or things that he said to you. Literally, if I was in your shoes, I would be putting all of that down. I would then be calling like the Department of Labor tomorrow, as well as the health department, and report this guy. Like seriously, this guy is doing illegal stuff in his restaurant. He's not paying you what you're worth. He's not giving you overtime when you clearly have gotten a lot of overtime hours. He's basically breaking like every health code imaginable by reusing food, which by the way is really gross. And this guy has a history of like having weird parties with a bunch of minors. Like seriously, this guy does not sound like a good person. And in my opinion, he absolutely should pay for his crimes. I would even take like some stealthy photos if you can of the work environment and have that at the ready as proof that yeah, things are really bad right now. But also with that in mind, why on earth are you even trying to stay at this place? Like I would not wait, in my opinion. opinion. If I was in your shoes, I would either be quitting or finding another job and then leaving like the next day. Because the way he's treating you right now is not okay. This is not normal behavior, and this is not a normal working environment. This goes beyond having a boss that has a bad attitude. He's literally taking advantage of you because you're young. You are just a teenager even if you are 18, so he's counting on the fact that you don't know what to do and that he can intimidate you into silence. I mean, that's why he's trying to blackmail your other friend to be like, ooh, if you go to the cops, I'm gonna go to the cops as well and report you. Like, this is some shady behavior, and honestly, you do not deserve this in the slightest. So seriously, I would jump on that as soon as possible, because what you're describing is really sketchy, and you do not deserve to work in that kind of environment in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.